Among Tolkien fans, there's one great question that looms over the minds of those who have read the Silmarillion and The Lord of the Rings. That question is, could there ever be a third Dark Lord of Middle-earth, after Sauron and Melkor? The servants of evil after the destruction of the ring were all but eliminated. The most significant impact of the destruction of the One Ring at the end of the Third Age is that there were no Maiar spirits left within Middle-earth. The first Dark Lord Morgoth was the mightiest of all of the Valar, the gods. The Maiar were angelic beings with divine powers lesser than the Valar. It can be argued that Sauron was the mightiest of these spirits, at least in Middle-earth. Even without the ring, Sauron's cunning and domination made Mordor the mightiest nation in all of Middle-earth. But what type of creature would be the closest to claiming the title of Dark Lord? The Maiar and the Valar have departed into the west, so they are immediately ruled out. Saruman was weakened immensely and perished during the Battle of Bywater in the Shire. The first candidate on this list is a Wraith. The Nazgul were not the only Wraiths in the world of Middle-earth. There were hundreds of lesser rings made apart from the Rings of Power. The issue with this argument comes when one considers the diminished glory of the enchantment and smith work of all the peoples of Middle-earth that was a result of the departure of the elves and the waning of the dwarves. When the One Ring was destroyed, Lothlorien was doomed to fall also. Although the elven rings were made for good purpose, unlike the other Rings of Power, they were still subject to the One Ring. Although there were many lesser rings scattered around Middle-earth, without the one, their enchantments and powers would be greatly diminished, making Wraiths obsolete. The second candidate is a great chieftain of the Orcs or the Uruk-hai. While the Uruk-hai were far more intelligent and brutal than their Orcish lessers, after the destruction of the ring, the Orcs went mad and scattered all over the world, killing each other and just waiting to be hunted down. Sauron was the only source of order and structure in their lives, and after his fall, the significant command of Orc legions would be much more difficult, and likely impossible for one being to accomplish alone. The next option is one that many don't consider. This is the Nameless Creatures that dwell in the dark of Moria that were mentioned as Gandalf fought the Balrog. These horrifying abominations that dwell in the darkest depths of the earth definitely hold the strength and power to dominate. The intelligence of these abominations is questionable, and it is highly unlikely that creatures that have lived in darkness for so long, possibly thousands of years, would function properly when exposed to the light of the sun, nor would they wish to rule over a world that is filled with the sun's light. These beings will likely just remain as horrors to take away and torment the greedy miner, and will likely never aspire to world domination. One group I haven't mentioned yet is the race of men. The two great kingdoms that served under the Dark Lord Sauron were Harad and Rhûn, the Southlands and the Eastlands. The High King of the reunited kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor, Elisar II, better known as Aragorn, son of Arathorn, made this a much less significant concern. After the destruction of Mordor, these two kingdoms of men would be subject to great poverty and infighting. Aragorn didn't decide to just let these groups of men perish alone, but he decided to rule over them for their protection, and to help them rebuild instead. It is possible that a powerful man would rise up against Gondor, but with Aragorn's righteous judgment and great mercy for these kingdoms, the majority opinion would be to remain friends with Gondor for their benefit. Even if theoretically these two kingdoms were deep set in rebellion towards Gondor and Arnor, the title of Dark Lord could not be applied to any man. The term Dark Lord means much more than a simple tyrant. A Dark Lord is one of the mightiest beings to ever dwell on the face of the earth, someone that inspires fear and has no human mercy for those who serve under him. A Dark Lord had to be revered as a divine creature, and one that could annihilate any challengers with brutal force. A simple man of Harad or Rhûn would not even be able to stand his ground against a mighty challenger among his people, definitely not against a mighty man of Gondor. Their reign would not be permanent, and their mortal nature would catch up with them. If a man of Rhûn or Harad claimed the title of Dark Lord, they would be laughed off and likely put down immediately. Although the next people I will mention could not truly claim the title of Dark Lord individually, they were cruel oppressors and overlords of the men of Middle-earth, and the most brutal and harsh colonizers that ever walked the face of the earth. These were men known as the Black Numenoreans. Many of the men of Numenor within the party known as the King's Men began to fear their mortality and desired everlasting life. Despite the warnings of the West, these men were deep set on their aspirations. They made fortresses and dwellings during Sauron's time in Numenor, and heeded his words and empty promises. These men hated the followers of Elendil and had the greatest motives for rebelling against Gondor. Their greatest fortress was known as Umbar, west of the Herodic mainland. When Sauron returned to Middle-earth after the downfall of Numenor, many of these wicked sorcerers served him. The Black Numenoreans were enamored of evil knowledge and worshipped Sauron. These men grew so prideful of their magic powers and their wicked enchantments that many of them became idle, and those that were war-hungry fought amongst themselves to prove their strength. By the time of the Third Age, their race had dwindled so much that it is not even a concern that these sorcerous men would possess the strength of their ancestors needed to pose a significant threat. If they did, the Black Numenoreans would be the most likely candidate to raise up a Dark Lordship in Middle-earth. However, no single Black Numenorean could claim for himself the title of Dark Lord. But if they were not subject to so much infighting, perhaps a cult of darkness might be established. There's really no concern of a new Dark Lord coming to power in Middle-earth. Morgoth was the greatest, Sauron was lesser than his master, and the servants of Sauron are so much lesser in power and authority than the second Dark Lord, that none would be able to accomplish what he accomplished. Sauron was, and always will be known, as the last Dark Lord to walk the surface of Middle-earth. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Lord of the Rings videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one, guys.